Hello, and in this lesson, we're going to talk about buckets and objects, specifically how to create a bucket, bucket naming rules, uploading objects, creating a folder, and navigating S3 properties. So first, let's revisit this diagram from the previous lesson, as this is what we're currently going to build in S3, so we can see a live example of how to create a bucket, add a folder, and then upload an object at the bucket level, and then also upload an object into a subfolder. So in order to do that, the first thing that we need to do is create an S3 bucket. So over here in the console, let's go to S3. And since I currently have not used S3 in this account, it is going to immediately prompt me to create a bucket. And the first thing I need to do is give the bucket a name. Now, there are a few things that are very important to understand and know here, and that is that bucket names must follow a set of rules. These are the most basic rules, and that is bucket names must be unique across all AWS. What I mean by that is that for everybody everywhere in the world using AWS, using S3, bucket names cannot be duplicates. So if I have a bucket called my S3 bucket in my account, you can't have a bucket in your account called my S3 bucket. Everything has to be unique across every account, across every user in the entire world for AWS. So that can create a bit of an issue in that you may not be able to have a bucket name that you want. So a lot of times you will have to get creative with your bucket names. Bucket names must be a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 63 characters in length. Bucket names can only contain lowercase letters, numbers, and hyphens, so you cannot have capital letters in your bucket name. And also, bucket names may not be formatted as an IP address. Okay, so let's create a bucket. I'm going to call this Project Omega Bucket 1, and let's see if that's taken. See, I already made a mistake there. I put a capital just by habit. And next, we need to select a region. So I'm going to select US Standard and click Create. Okay, good. So that bucket name was not taken, so I was the first one to request that bucket name out of everybody using S3 in the entire world, so that's good. So next, let's talk about uploading or importing an object to a bucket. To do that, we want to navigate into the bucket, so we do that just by clicking on it here. Now we are inside of the bucket, and we can go right up here to the Upload button. I then can click on Add Files. I'm going to go to my Documents tab, and I'm going to upload Project Omega File 1. Click OK, start upload. And there we go. That uploaded. It is now in my bucket. So it's really that simple just to upload to S3. So clicking back to the root, here is my Project Omega bucket, and inside here is my Project Omega File 1. Now to create a folder, all I need to do is click on Create a Folder, and I can call this Folder 1. Now, folder names can be capitalized and have very different rules than bucket names do. So I can then navigate into the folder, and then I can upload an object directly into the folder by doing the same process as before. And let's upload Project Omega File 2. Okay, so just going back here, I now basically have this structure set up. So I have my bucket here, which is Project Omega bucket. Then in the bucket, I have an object, which is Project Omega File 1. I have a subfolder, which is Folder 1. And then inside the folder, I have another object. So really, to create buckets, folders, and uploading objects is really that simple. So next, let's take a look at buckets, folders, and object properties, because this is how you are going to use and modify buckets, folders, and objects moving forward. So back to the bucket level. If I select a bucket without clicking on the name, but click on it over here and then click on properties, it's going to bring up this list of various options, and we are going to dive into some of these over the next few lessons. So the top part of properties is always going to be general information about the bucket name, the region, the creation date, the owner, that is who created the bucket, And then going down through the rest of these, there's a lot of different features and functions that we can use here in S3 on the bucket level. And we're going to talk specifically about permissions, versioning, and life cycles over the next few videos. Then navigating into the bucket, if I click on the folder, now if you notice I didn't click on the folder, but just on the line, it highlights it. And then if I click on properties, I can view properties for the folder, which in this case is just general info and details. For an object, I can do the same thing. I can click on an object here, and I can view properties for the object. Now, the properties for the object vary a bit, but I have the bucket that it's located in, the name, a link, and we'll get to that in a later lesson, and then the size, the time it was last modified, and some other information about the file. And then detailed permissions, metadata, we are going to get into these in the next few lessons. But what I want you to take from here is just how to navigate around S3 in terms of accessing properties on the bucket level, accessing properties on the folder and objects level as well. That's going to be very important to you to understand as you move forward and start to use S3. So with that, we will conclude this lesson. Thank you for watching. You may now move on.